Great. Well, welcome everybody. We are so delighted to have Liana De la Rosa with us tonight. I know that many of you have the Luna sisters on your syllabi. I know both Emily and I had Gabriela and His Grace on our syllabi and just finished our buddy read of it last night. So we couldn't be more excited to have Liana here with us today. I know that many of you know Liana's work well, but wanted to just provide a little bit of a background. Liana is a USA Today bestselling author of historical romance and soon contemporary romance as well, which we can't wait to talk a little bit about, and has been reviewed by Kirkus and Library Journal and Washington Post and the Boston Globe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, as anybody who's been a Luna Sisters reader knows, she writes incredible Latina characters getting their HEAs. And for those who've gone back and read some of your indie work, we've read The Doughtons, we've read Once Upon a Scandal. It's been so fun to see the trajectory of your writing. So we're so delighted to have you.
Thank you for inviting me to join you all. I'm very happy to be here.
Of course. So we'll kick it off. And again, as Emily said, we'll keep this very low key. We just want to talk to you a little bit about what brought you to your writing, a little bit about your inspiration, learn a little bit more about the Luna Sisters series, and some of your inspirations in historical romance icons, because Romancelandia University is just a whole lot of very rabid historical romance readers.
I love that.
We love HR so much. And so just excited to be able to uplift and celebrate some of our currently publishing historical romance authors that we love so much. So thank you. Great. Well, first, I did want to kick off and just talk a little bit about your hybrid publishing journey, because you have published indie, you've published traditionally, and you're now, switching from doing just finishing your historical romance series, having an upcoming contemporary series. And I know that that's been a different writing process for you, and you've talked a little bit about that on Instagram. So I'd love just your insight into being a hybrid published author and what you wish people understood about the publishing journey.
So I started writing in like 2013. I had young children at home and I was looking for me time. I was looking for an identity outside of being a mom. And my husband encouraged me to try writing. And so at the time, indie publishing was a thing for sure, but I wouldn't say it's nearly where it's at, currently. And so when I was getting started, it was just natural to query agents and try to go the traditionally published route. I came up as an emerging author when Avon historical romance ruled supreme, right? One of my dreams was to have that like Avon diamond on the, spine of one of my books. Like that's absolutely what I wanted. And so the moves that I have made, honestly, up until this point, have all been geared towards the traditional market. Now, you mentioned my Dalton series. So the Daltons are two novellas that are up on Amazon or Barnes and Noble that you can buy. Um, I didn't necessarily plan them. And I wasn't necessarily trying to be an indie published author. The Captain's Midwinter Bride, which is the first novella in the series, I wrote that novella for an anthology. And it was about like weddings. Like there had to be like a wedding in the novella. And so I wrote this little novella, and I knew immediately that the bride and groom in the novella were not going to be like, the characters that we focused on. It would be the bride's parents. Like I don't know why, I just knew that the characters would be older, and I had all these thoughts about how I wanted to follow their relationship and how it changed. And then I didn't take part in the anthology. So I had this book or this novella just sitting on my hard drive. And I was in between projects. My Once Upon a Scandal series had just finished with Entangled, and I hadn't quite yet sold the Luna Sister series to Berkeley, although I was kind of working on the beginning stages of it. And I felt like I needed to publish something because I didn't want there to be a gap in my publishing history. And I was like, oh, that's right. I have that little novella. Why don't I do something with it? So that's literally why I did it. I wasn't trying to be a hybrid author. I wasn't trying to entered the indie sphere, it was literally like, I should probably do something with this. And what better way to do it than with a novella? And so I think I was blessed with a really great cover. I don't know about you. I adore that red dress cover. It's so beautiful.
Beautiful.
And I lucked out that it was the kind of read that people wanted in 2020. It's a very gentle read. There's like not a lot going on in the novella. It's literally just focused on these two long married 40 somethings falling in love. And I think it's just what people needed after a tumultuous 2020. And so that's literally why I published it. That's kind of what became of it. And I had a number of readers DM me and email me asking if I was going to write about Beth, Annalise and Philip's daughter from the Captain's Midwinter Bride. And I hadn't planned on it because, as I said, it was just a one-off novella I wrote for this anthology. And I was like, well, if you want to read about Beth, I'm sure I can think of a storyline for Beth. And so that's what I did. And that's how, or I can't even remember the name. Once Upon a Midsummer Night, on a Midsummer Night. I can't even remember the title of that second novella. That's literally how that came apart. And coincidentally, I was researching the male main character in Beth's novella, the second novella, because I knew that he was from Latin America, and I was researching him when I stumbled across records for people immigrating from Latin America to Europe, and which is what jump-started the Luna Sister series and what it became. So I was researching Henry, and that's kind of how it came about. So I've always been focused on trad publishing, but I'm sure, as you guys have talked about, the historical market in traditional publishing is not where it was before. There are not any currently, or very few. That's a spam caller. Do you guys get a ton of spam calls? Oh my gosh. So sorry. That was a spam caller. Um, but my dream of having that Avon diamond on the cover or the spine of one of my books has kind of died a slow death, at least in the current market. So as you mentioned, my next project is contemporary. However, I do have plans to self-publish a historical romance series. It will be 3 books. The first book is written and it's slated for an early 2027 release, which feels so far away, but I know it's not. But that's to work around. I obviously have a contract with Berkeley that I have to work around. So the earliest I can publish is early 2027, and I do intend to do that. So I may have kind of had zero intentions of being a hybrid author initially with the Dalton series, but I'm very intentionally joining the roster of indie authors to publish this new series in 2027.
It seems like you gave yourself some very valuable experience for the current landscape of historical romance publishing. Like, we were wondering while we were reading Gabriela and His Grace about Lucia. We were like,
oh yeah,
where's
Emily
she
has
off
all these
to?
little predictions on future
She
characters.
gets her own book energy.
Okay, so the lore, for all of you who are here, the lore was that Lucia was supposed to be the female main character of a spin-off series from the Luna Sisters that I intended to do. And the male main character actually appeared in their book as well. He is
Is it the Chilean guy?
Yes. He was supposed to appear as well. And so I had this whole spin-off series idea for them. And then Berkeley didn't want historical romance. And so
can you use that idea, or is it like Luna Sisters belongs with Berkeley, so you can't really?
Oh, I didn't think about that. Not
so
familiar.
yes, the Luna Sisters does belong to them. But I'll be really honest, I thought of a much better series idea after that I'm much more excited about and passionate about, that if I were in a position to sell a series to Berkeley, I would choose the new series over that spinoff series. It's just, and I wish I could tell you about it, but I don't know if it's ever going to exist anywhere in real life because it's one of those ideas that I think would work best in trad pub
Mhm.
um, than in indie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to hold on to it and hope desperately
We'll
it
be
becomes
hoping
something.
alongside you.
Yeah. I
Thank
mean,
you.
we're just delighted to know that we'll get more historical romance coming.
Yeah.
I mean, because as you said, it's been hard as readers to see the change in the publishing landscape and to feel, especially as voracious historical romance readers, to feel like,
Yeah.
what more can we do? Like this is so frustrating to see this kind of decline and taking risks on new authors and longer series commitments and re-upping contract.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to watch as a reader. I can only imagine. So we're just so
Yeah.
happy to know that we've got a 2027 historical romance coming.
And this is my, if people follow me on Threads, I've talked about this series before. It's my Victorian Mountain Climbers series.
Yes.
That is what I will be self-publishing in 2027. The first book's, like I said, it's written. I'm very excited. It's kind of lived um on my computer in my heart like since for like the last 5, almost 6 years. And I finally was able to get a Nepali sensitivity reader for it because that was a big reason why I haven't done anything with it prior to now because the female main character is half Nepali. It's set in Nepal, Nepali customs and mythology. All of that stuff is very heavily woven into the storyline. And I'm not Nepali. So I didn't feel comfortable putting the story out without getting some eyeballs on it, right? Like I worked really, really hard to be respectful, but I didn't feel like I could be that I was being as respectful as possible if I didn't get a sensitivity or authenticity reader to read it. And I did. And she loved the book, so I'm very excited to finally get to share it with readers.
That's so cool.
And that's so indicative too. I know Emily and I are both, avid readers of indie romance and got to celebrate with a lot of our U readers over the summer. We did kind of an indie scavenger hunt and just really appreciate the heart and the sensitivity and the research. I mean, it's just an incredible amount of work that you and other authors are doing in the indie space right now and taking a lot of risks that we don't always see invested in traditional publishing. So
No,
very
no.
excited.
The traditional model right now is to let indie authors take the chances, wait for them to
Yeah.
blow up, and then scoop in and offer them trad print deals.
Yep.
So who's to say maybe
Maybe.
maybe my Mountain Climber series will be huge in the indie space. I mean, look, a girl can dream.
Oh
And
yeah.
then we'll get scooped up. You never know.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so cool. And I also didn't know, I love the lore because I actually first read The Daltons. That was my introduction to your writing. And I will say, not only cozy, perfect in that like tumultuous 2020, 2021 era, but also an older main set of main characters, which we just don't get a lot. And so I think those of us 30s plus are looking for older main characters and really appreciate those stories. So I know that Captain's Midwinter Bride was just such a fun discovery. And I
Oh,
didn't know
thanks.
how that follow-up novella tied into the Luna Sister series and kind of kicked off that research. That's great.
And I will say, I am doing another anthology. Like this time I am doing it in 2027, and the story that will be appear in that anthology is actually Oliver's. So he is the Dalton brother or Beth's brother, Annalise and Philip's son. He appeared in the second novella, maybe briefly at the very end of the first. It will be his story.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to go write his story because actually I've kind of known what his story is going to be for a few years now, at least since Beth's novella. So I'm excited to share that one too.
That is so fun. And then, okay, when you participate in an anthology, I feel like on just from listening to Fated Mates, I've gleaned some insight as to how this works, but I'm not an author. I don't, and I think probably some of our viewers and our students might be curious about this. So when you participate in an anthology, it's self-pubbed like for the group. And
Hmm.
is there like a set amount of time that the
Hmm.
anthology is available or something? And then after which point, because like think about like Joanna Shoup has that book called like Duke's Rogues and Villains, and it's
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
formerly included in anthology novellas, like from like Villain, I'd like to,
Yeah,
that,
uh-huh.
those
Mhm.
these anthologies are so good. But but like once you are included in this anthology, are you allowed to then be like, here's all the Daltons in in like a special anthology that I release,
Mhm.
or
Yes.
do you have to wait? You
So
you
you
have you have access to those immediately.
So usually, like before you sign on and you're invited to participate, they have the criteria or like the time frames all laid out. So you know what, first off, you're buying in,
Mhm.
right? Because you have to promote it and you are promising that it's going to be edited and formatted and all that stuff. You're buying in for the cover. So we're putting money up front for that. And included in that is like a list of timeframes. It's going to be exclusive to maybe KU for like 90 days.
Mhm.
And then we'll be out, or for after a year is up, the rights revert back to you and you can do what you want with it. And my goal is once the anthology timeline is over to bundle up the Daltons, the three together and like do some, because I've had multiple people, especially like at book signings, being like, I wish you sold the Captain's Winter Bride in print, or
Mhm.
on a Midsummer Night. That's the thing I remembered. Um, I wish you had print copies of those. And I've never wanted to do that because I knew that there would be three, and I've just been kind of waiting for the right
Yeah,
time. So
that
my
makes
long-term
sense.
goal is to do
That's
that.
brilliant.
Yeah, so usually we know ahead of time before we like agree.
Okay.
We know what the terms are and if they work for
And
our
it's not
schedules.
it's not quite like, how now like these babies belong to Berkeley, so Lucia's got to wait for some freaking Berkeley agreement to come along.
Exactly, exactly. They belong to me. So I can be more flexible with the Daltons. I can be more flexible with the mountain climbers when they come out because they're
Awesome.
mine. Hmm.
See, that's the beauty, I think, of being a hybrid author. And I think it's probably I don't know if there are any aspiring authors watching. It seems like it's not easy. It's not an easy path, but
Mm-mm.
like if you can make it happen, then there are some safety rails in place because when the publishing industry when the trad deals are not coming through for historical, but you have a reader base who is loyal and wants more from you, and you have these stories in your heart or on your hard
Hmm.
drive, there's an avenue through which to get them. And then, of course, there's like the community of historical romance authors who do these anthologies and who
Hmm.
build each other up. This like amazing Kickstarter campaign that just
Oh, I
happened,
know. Yeah.
the After the End, like I'm like I don't know if I could bring myself to like read dystopian romance. Although I listened to the Fated Mates that Adriana Herrera just did
Oh, yeah, yeah.
week's
Hmm.
episode, and she was talking about how she really does not like she doesn't get into like dark romance, and she doesn't like the darker themes and stuff. And so I was like, you know what, maybe I could do it. I think I would enjoy
Hmm.
that. So, but they are the number one Kickstarter of the year for all of Kickstarter.
It's
And
amazing.
they had a goal of $10,000, and it's like what you were saying, like that was going to cover the cost of like getting these books bound and
Hmm.
paying for the editor and paying for the person running their social medias, and like who knew like what was going to be left for the authors in terms of profit when that was all said and done. But then they raised $1 million,
Uh-huh.
and
Hmm.
it's
And
just
part,
like,
yeah. And sometimes I know for me, for me, I agree to do anthologies too to keep my feet in the
yeah,
historical romance space, especially because I
yes,
knew I was going to be doing a contemporary, and I wanted to make sure that those readers who found me because I write historical romance were still getting something from me,
yeah,
in that realm, because I fully understand that just because I wrote historical romance doesn't mean that people are going to read my contemporary. Like, right? That sometimes those crossovers are not there. And
they
that's
are.
one thing I hope so. I was like, that's one thing that we talk about in like author spaces and author groups. Some indie authors have talked about how they have like a really robust indie readership, and then
Mhm.
they started publishing traditionally and their readers didn't follow. Like they're very different. And I think it's a price point thing personally. Traditionally published books are much more expensive than you can get from an indie book, or especially if that book is in KU, or, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with all of you, but I think that's it's a concern. It's something that I think about. Like I want I hope readers will give my contemporary a try, but also I understand. If you found me because I write historical romance, I want you to know that I'm still writing historical romance. Like it's still my first love.
Yeah.
So I will get back to it.
Well, I know, like, we're all awaiting like the new Sherry Thomas contemporary mystery that's coming out, and it's like when we feel loyal to an author, historical romance is like a pretty warm and loyal
Hmm.
community, and we'll go where you're at. And it's like we're begging the industry to give you another trad deal. We're begging them to put some marketing dollars behind it. Like,
No,
Liana, like these covers are the most incredible
aren't they? I
covers.
just love them so much.
They're unrivaled, frankly.
I love
And it's just beautiful. Like these are so special, and we need so many more of these. We need so many more covers that look like this. Like,
And
we
yeah,
love to see people. We love to see different kinds of people. We love to see color. We love to see like beautifully detailed human forms, not like
yes,
faceless. We also love stock model imagery, but like we
right?
get it. The times are changing. We also love Victor Godino oil paintings.
Oh, they're so good. Yes. I the covers of the series, oh, they're right here, are like my dreams come true. I adore them. I will say, I've seen the cover for my contemporary. It is not the same artist. They wanted to do a different route for my contemporary, but it is the same vein, if you want to say. Like it feels like one of my covers. So at least, I mean, I'm very biased, but I feel like it feels like a Liana De la Rosa cover. So hopefully, maybe in November, I will get to share it. And November will be here before we know
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I love that because they're so lush. The illustrative style. So I can't wait to see the Mutual Discord cover. Is the title still Mutual Discord?
It
Okay, great.
is. It is still, which
Looking
my
out.
husband came up with that title. Berkeley was like, "What, do you have a title for this?" Because I didn't. I don't know if you want the lore behind Mutual Discord.
Oh, we would love to know.
You
Yeah.
do.
I mentioned that I had a spin-off series. That was like my hope
Mhm.
for to sell to Berkeley. But I knew probably before Isabel's book came out that the market was turning, and my agent warned me that Berkeley probably would not pick up a historical romance series like another one. So when I actually pitched my option to them, I had 7 ideas. And one of those ideas was my spin-off series. And it was the only historical idea I had at the time. And sure enough, they did not pick that one. They picked a romantasy idea I had based off Mexica mythology, like Aztec mythology. And then I had an idea of what I called the golf book. And I really love the golf book, and I will write that book one day. And Berkeley was very excited about the golf book. So at their ask, I wrote the first 3 chapters of the golf book because they wanted to be able to take those 3 chapters to acquisitions, which is like the committee that like approves what books they buy. And uh, I worked for, some time to write those 3 chapters, polish them, sent them in, only for Berkeley to come back and be like, we don't want the golf book. Only Tessa Bailey can write a golf book. And I was like,
This
I wasted all that
ain't big
time.
enough for two golf authors.
So I know I'm not describing the golf book at all, but it's sexy, set in Scotland. Like I was really excited about it. And then they didn't want it. So I was upset. And I kind of wanted to try to take the golf book wide. That means taking it to other publishers. But my agent's like, you know what? Berkeley's been good to you, which they have. They have been good to me. And they're like, maybe we can pitch them some additional ideas. And if they turn down those ideas, then we can go out wide to other publishers. You did your due diligence, and we can go from there. And I was like, okay, fine. So she asked for 3 ideas, and I came up with 2 that I really liked. And actually, one of those ones is the book I'm writing right now because I want to try to sell it. So I am working on that book still, but I needed a third idea and I had no idea. Like I was fresh out of ideas, right? I had already submitted 7 ideas and then I had these two and I was struggling. And I think I was on TikTok and because I like to watch all kinds of stuff on TikTok. My algorithm is between me and God, but it is fun and varied. So I was on TikTok and I was like, you know what? What if I wrote about like an influencer and she's like a Latina influencer and maybe she like highlights the historical theft of women's like innovations and discoveries. I'm simplifying this. This was over like a weekend. I brainstormed this. And so I scribbled out 2 paragraphs for the story. Literally, I was like, she does this and she falls in love with her best friend's boyfriend and blah, 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 blah. And I sent it to my agent and she just made some changes here and there. She goes, fine, there's our 3. And she sent it to Berkeley. And she called me 2 weeks later and she's like, hey, Berkeley wants to buy your book. And I was expecting to have to write chapters, right? So they could take it to acquisitions and they could do all this stuff. And she said, no, Berkeley literally said, here's money. We want your book. And I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. I thought it was my first idea. The one I'm writing right now, I was very excited about. And she's like, it's the influencer idea. And I was like, what? She's like, you know that one? I'm like, no, I did not remember it at all. She had to send me it again and be like, remember this one? And I on the phone with her and I was like reading it on my phone, like, oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. I did write that. And she's like, do you want to write this book? And I was like, I guess. They're offering me, money to write this book. Like, I'm sure I could figure it out. So that's literally the lore of Mutual Discord. It sold off 2 paragraphs. So I had to craft a whole plot around it. It had no title. It was, I think, proposal number 3 is what it like, or untitled something. So Berkeley was like, hey, do you have like a title idea? And I didn't. I had no, I was struggling to like come up with a plot for my 2 paragraphs. So my husband threw out so many ideas at me and I scribbled them all down and I sent them to my editor. And I shut down so many of them because they weren't good. So the fact that Berkeley chose Mutual Discord, one of the ones he suggested, my goodness, I'm surprised he could carry his head around the house. He was so proud of himself.
Oh
Okay,
my gosh,
so
I love
is
that.
the story still gonna have like historical contributions made by women? Because like that seems like a really natural, like your historical
Mhm.
readers will want to read that.
Yes, and I've had so much fun researching all these badass women like I didn't know about. And some of them aren't even like some of them that are included. Basically, Sophia is the female main character of the book, and she has a popular TikTok series called The Matildas, named after Matilda Jocelyn Gage, who was a suffragist in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And it's she kind of like modern day researchers kind of like named the Matilda effect after her. And the Matilda effect is basically the erasure of women from like their own histories, their own discoveries, their own innovations. And uh, so my female main character, Sophia, highlights all these women in like this very popular series on TikTok. And it was so much fun to like research. And not all the women she shares are like discovering planets or like doing these like some of them are like I didn't know who like created like penny liners or like everyday things that we take for granted that actually make our lives easier. Many of them were created by women, and I think that deserves to be celebrated. So I had a lot of fun, like including that into the book. So I hope it's like a nice segue from, my historicals into, contemporaries, especially because there is this historical element to it.
I love that. I just read Sarah McLean's contemporary recently, and I just feel like you can't stop a historical writer from doing a
Doing
ton
a
of
little
research
history.
and like actually grounding their story. Like it's just in your DNA now.
Yeah, it was really challenging. to write the dialogue because I think that there's a certain cadence and there's like certain vocabulary that you use when you write historicals that very much stand out when you're writing a contemporary. And so I cannot tell you how many times I have to go back and reword something
Or
because I'm
she
like,
was, wait, actually, I should probably.
yeah, exactly. Just like, and then this is the first time that I've written first person. I've always written third.
Mhm.
Um, and it took a lot. It's third past.
The
I
kids
could,
just want that first
I
person. Like, ugh, okay, okay.
I know. And it's like single POV, which was another challenge for me because I'm
Oh,
used to being in both characters' heads. I enjoy being in the male main character's head.
yeah.
Um, but the storyline, it just it worked best with just single POV. It was this book tried to kill me. It was everything about it was like different and uncharted territory for me as a writer. I learned a lot. I mentioned that I was working on another book right now that Berkeley didn't buy, but I mean, they might this time around, but it's also contemporary. But I went back to third person best. It's dual POV, but it makes sense for
Yeah.
this storyline and these characters. But yeah, it's also been more comfortable to write.
I can imagine that's hard. And I
Mhm.
agree, like with for your TikTok influencer of the immediacy of first person is great. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's a hard transition after the number of
I
books.
will say that she's in her 30s. So this character is in her 30s
Cool.
too. So she's a little older as well.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so
Mhm.
it sounds like you're like really getting into your contemporary era, but like we bringing it back to historical for a moment. What do you love about writing historical?
Yeah. And thinking we literally just came off Gabriella and His Grace,
And is it the
24 hours ago.
POV?
Yeah.
Um, Why do I love writing about it so much? I enjoy, well, one, enjoy the research part of it, right? Like I enjoy learning about different times and finding a way to share what I've learned with readers and weave those details into a larger narrative. I really enjoy that part. I enjoy the fashion. I enjoy the different way they talk, like all of it. I cut my teeth on writing historical. My brain just thinks in historical. I don't know how to describe it. It's just when I approach a new project, I always think about how I could set it in a different time that we're in right now. Maybe because to me, historical is such an escape from where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Um, and it's uh I can craft the past in many ways into a way that I find palatable, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I think one of the critiques I've heard about historical romance is, women had so little agency, they're anything, right? I'm sure we've all heard all the critiques for historical romance. It's hard to like get lost in it. There was like, there was racism, misogyny, all that stuff. And I'm always like, but it's here with us now
Like,
too.
I know.
look
Look
around.
around.
Like
Yeah.
this is all stuff we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And and I enjoy thinking about history in a way that, yes, those things were still present. Yes, those were fights that were still being had. Um, but it didn't mean that women, and I always think of my books in terms of the female main characters. And
Mhm.
then I craft the male main characters to be their equal, their perfect match, essentially. But I always think in terms of the female main characters. So I want to write these women getting everything they deserve, right? In whatever era I set their books, I want them to be happy and to, even if they're facing all kinds of adversity and whatever, I want them to get it all, essentially. And the truest example I think of that, of one of my characters literally getting it all because I was determined that she would get everything, is Isabel. Isabel
Yes.
was Isabel was going to get everything because that girl deserved it. But even when they don't get what they think they want, like Gabby, you guys said you just finished reading Gabby's good book. Gabby thought that she wanted to be in Mexico. That's where she thought her life was going to be. And she maneuvered to get back there. And then it didn't turn out to be what she wanted. And I think that that happens all the time, right? Like we make plans for ourselves and we think that if I get this or I move here, X, Y, and Z, that I'm going to be happy. And then those things don't work out. And then what do you do then?
We
And
love this about Gabby. Like we were
Yeah.
discussing how characters in the book are critical of her and her tendency to like run away. And we were like, excusez-moi, she's a lady who knows how she wants to be treated. And when it's not happening, she's like, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm bouncing. And it's like that. I respect that so much.
Mhm.
Like she crosses oceans if she doesn't like the situation. And she
Yeah,
has the
Great.
money
Yeah.
to be
to do
to
it.
do that. And it's like, who's mad? I'm not mad at her. Um,
Nope.
and and also I just want to touch on the fact like what you were saying about like, oh, like it was there was so much misogyny or there was so much racism in the past. So like we don't want to return to that. I was telling my husband while I was reading this book, I was like, it feels so deeply comforting for the part of the book that takes place in Mexico as there's like this political turmoil
Mhm.
happening that it's like they're having parties. They're going to the marketplace. They're shopping for books. They're having a lovely pan dulce with breakfast. They're
Mhm.
they're living their lives. They're falling in love. They're, using contraception and doing it without getting pregnant. Like there's good stuff happening even amongst political peril. And
Mhm.
like Isabel has chosen to move back home and she's doing great. It
Mhm.
doesn't like negatively impact her HEA that she's like, oh wait, there was a war going on there. So it's
Mhm.
like, living in America today, you're like, okay, times are tough sometimes. Times are tough right now where I am. And people are still able to like live full, beautiful, rich
Absolutely.
lives and
Mhm.
feel joy and fall in love. And that's what historical romance shows us again and again and again.
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
should never be, looking away from those stories because, like, oh, they might be regressive. If anything,
Regressive.
there are
Mhm.
such powerful lessons to be learned on the pages of a historical romance. And I think you did a really nice job showing us, like,
Thanks.
like this is like a wealthy family. Like these girls are not like, oh, we're in this scary, worn-torn place. Like, no, like you did such a beautiful job of showing like just like how gorgeous Mexico is and like giving such life to it and showing how like Mexicans love Mexico. And it's like I just was like transported. I want to be in Mexico. I'm so jealous of Sirius, like just being like, yeah, I just like live here now.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
He's living his best life, right? Like
so
Yeah,
Sirius is
happy.
he's
so
living his
happy.
best life.
Yeah.
I I'm like such an Isabel Sirius fan. I loved that book so much. And that actually reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you too. But seeing them happy was the greatest joy. And like that Mexico segment, just seeing like we love a continued HEA. We love to see the years later that everything is still great.
I
But
had so much fun revisiting them too. I'm like, oh, because I'm a plantser. Like I have big plot points where I know what happens, but sometimes I'm just writing as I go and figuring it out. So like when all of a sudden one of them would appear on the screen, like when Sirius meets them at the docks, that was not planned. Like he was just there and I'm like, oh, here he is. And I was delighted to see my character again. And like, I know that sounds so dumb. Like obviously I'm
oh,
writing him, but the way he kind of just naturally like appeared, it was so fun to me. I'm like, oh, like an old friend.
yeah.
So yeah, I
And the
like
moment where Gabby realizes she has two brothers now, like
that.
there were so many moments with Sirius and with Gideon that just felt so special.
Oh,
And
I
then,
loved writing Gideon all overprotective over her and like getting mad at Sebastian. Like I made myself laugh out loud, like with this stupid little like zingers that he had for Sebastian. I was like, yeah, that's fun.
Also,
it's
I
like,
really loved the way that Gideon was like, just believe me when I tell you that I would never send you out of my sight thinking that any harm could come to you. So if I'm sending you with my friend Sebastian, just believe.
Yeah.
Like, it's me.
Hmm.
Ian.
So,
And that's why I think because I feel like so like Gideon has knows who Sebastian is, right? He may not have known him as long as Sirius has, but he knows him. So he doesn't expect him to be perfect. He doesn't expect him to be anything other than what he is. And he knows at his core that Sebastian is a good man, right? He is a good man. He has always been good to Gideon, who is a black man up and coming. And Sebastian is like a lofty duke, and he befriended him. In my mind, Sebastian befriended Gideon. Like, you are
yeah,
going to be my friend. And so I think that there is a deep respect between the men. And I think that Gideon really cares for Gabby and would never dream of sending her to Mexico with anyone other than someone he truly trusts.
yeah. I have to know too, like, but as I think about the sisters and each of their stories, and I know you said you kind of write the male main character to be that perfect foil, the person that's going to support them and give them the HEA they deserve. Which of the sisters was hardest for you to write or easiest for you to write? Did you feel like there's one that you related to deeply and that story just flowed? I'm so curious because you nail the like eldest, middle, youngest dynamic so well.
They were all hard to write.
Yeah.
Um, and not just not for like one specific reason or the other. They uh were always very alive to me. Like when I actually wrote them, um, I went in writing Ana Maria. Writing Ana Maria, maybe that was the most difficult book because that book had to do a lot, right? It was the first book in the series.
And that's where all
It
three sisters are on the page the most, interacting with each other the most.
Exactly. And I'm introducing the world, the conflict in Mexico that sent them to London. I'm introducing Gideon and his backstory, plus Sirius and Sebastian both get introduced in that book. Plus, to make it more complicated, Gideon and Ana Maria are the type of characters who care about big things, right? Their worlds are big because they care about big things. And so it was very hard to balance that. I know because I know that a critique of that book is that there's not enough focus on like the relationship between the two of them. And to an extent, I understand that, but also
The
at the
first
same
book in a series. The first book in a series has to carry so much plot
time,
that's not necessarily just about the couple. I always
yes.
refer to first book syndrome, and first book syndrome doesn't mean that the book falls short. It just means that the reader is like, oh, I don't know if I got as much of the couple that I wanted, but it's like, well, did you want the book to be 1,400 pages? Because there needs to be like
Yes,
an additional
for
book of like a
real.
lot of romance if you want the first book to be like as romancy as the subsequent books.
Ex and then, Gideon is he's a politician. So he's worried about these big grand ideas and he's maneuvering for that. And Ana Maria, is worried about her sister. So there's all their brains are occupied by these big things. Things that I did not have to worry about when I wrote about Isabel and Gabby. Now, Isabel, to an extent, because of what she was getting up to in her book and her concerns and what she was working towards, but not to the extent that like she wasn't concerned about her sisters in the way that Ana Maria, as the eldest sister, was concerned about her sisters. Gabby, her older sisters are married now, right? She could focus on herself and, you know, um, the men who were driving her crazy and, that she wanted to get away from. These were things that she could maybe be, I don't want to say be more selfish because she wasn't being selfish, but she was granted the privilege of not having to worry about those other things that like Ana Maria had to worry about, and to a lesser extent, Isabel had to worry about. So I felt like I could focus more on the relationship because of those things. So I would definitely say Ana Maria's book was the hardest to write. As far as the hardest character to write, I don't know. Once I kind of got into the rhythm of writing each of the sisters, they kind of just flowed. And the most fun I had is writing the sisters together. Like anytime the sisters were together, I had so much fun writing them. And I had a lot of fun writing Gabby and Sebastian together because they just spark off of each other.
I love
So
their dynamic. I kept trying to be like, okay, so he's not quite a golden retriever, and she's like definitely not a golden retriever, and like, but she's also not a black cat, and he's not a black, and it's like, and they're just like they're really very similar to one another.
mm-hmm.
That is like a treat to read them interacting, where it's like he just he gives her hell because she likes that coming from him.
She does. She loves to be challenged, and he loves to have someone stand up to him. Like, right? He doesn't want, sycophants. Like he wants,
Oh yeah, he
you
has Brody for the same reason. Like
Oh, Brody was totally my mouthpiece.
he
If you could
loves
not
being
tell.
surrounded by mouthy people who will tell him what's what. Like that was fun.
Brody was so much fun to to write. I had a blast with him. In one of my author groups that I'm in, we were joking about someone like another author had received a not great review, something about one of the someone's valet or butler, or, I don't know, a servant. A reader thought that it didn't behave that the way that they would have at that time. They would have been more gracious and whatever. And we started talking about like our favorite snarky servants. And of course, I mentioned Brody, and then we had this whole long discussion about Elizabeth Hoyt's the servants in Elizabeth Hoyt's books. And of course, we talked about Davis and the Raven Prince, who's like the gold star standard. He's still makes me laugh. So I definitely think that's like become an archetype in historical romance.
Yeah.
The everyone needs that like person that just jabs at you, and Sebastian needed that in Brody for
Yes,
sure.
and also Kelsey and I both listened to these books on audio, and I just kept thinking about how like Ruby Hunt was like working so hard for her.
She was.
She was
She
doing
was so
Brody with a
good.
Scottish accent, and she was doing a haughty aristocrat for Sebastian, and she was doing like a lovely Mexican accent for the Luna sisters, and everybody had their own accent. And I was just like, and then
She worked hard.
he always narrates in like a sort of like I always have to stop and be like, is she narrating in an American accent? Like because it's like my brain is busy listening to her read one
She's
of her
so good.
so
I
good.
I will say when I was giving notes about how in my mind like Sebastian sounded or how Gabby sounded, which was kind of hard because they had appeared in the first two books, right? So now they're the focus of the book. So they wanted notes. And I was like, in my mind, when I think about Sebastian, I read his dialogue in Tom Hiddleston as Loki's voice, like that sort of, I'm talking about. He has that like
A little
attitude.
droll, a little
Exactly. And kind of like really sarcastic and real dry. In my mind, like that's how he read. And I think that Ruby did a really good job of like
She did such
trying
a good
to like
job.
nail that.
Also, whenever all three Luna sisters were speaking, I was like, I know immediately who is who.
Hmm.
And the part of that is like you can tell that when you wrote those scenes, you were really like characterizing everybody like really beautifully. I also loved the way Ruby read. There are some younger characters in the book. There's some kids who get a lot of speaking, and I was like, okay, it sounds like a different person is
She's so
reading
good.
so good.
I could never. I
Thank
could,
you. I
and
can't, I could never.
it's so funny because they asked me like, okay, these words, can you pronunciate? Like, how do you pronunciate these words? And so I'd have to make voice notes and
Mhm.
like send them to them. And I was always like, look, I don't even know how to pronounce this because I just
Yeah.
see it, right? Like I just see it. Like I don't necessarily know. So there I was like Googling, how do you pronounce Purepacha or like whatever.
Oh
And then
yeah. I
and then
was
I would like,
also like, okay, I've listened to these books on audio and they're always talking about how dad is purepecha. And I'm like, I need to look at the word. I need to look at
yes.
this word.
Uh-huh. Yeah, which is it's funny because when you're reading it, right, you don't know how to pronounce it, but when you're hearing it, you're like, how do you spell it?
Yeah,
So it was kind of wild. So my
with
voice
the
notes
reader.
to her, I'm sure, were like, they were probably giggling. I'm like, don't laugh too hard, but here's how I try to say it in my brain. And she's much more professional and better than I am.
She's great. Perfect,
Oh,
perfect companion to the series.
Good.
yeah. And I so appreciate just your insight, even on character conflicts, because until you identified exactly that, I hadn't thought about in Gabrielle's, we have such an internal conflict for her, more so than the previous two books. It's a very different style of conflict and what she is trying to overcome and what she's trying to discover. And Anna Maria is so different.
Mm-hmm.
Daughter, she's
Mm-hmm. And
really
from
big
Isabel
into,
too. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I hadn't,
Yeah.
and just again to the magic of historical romance, you just can't beat grand gestures on ships, like showing up across Atlanta. It just hits different. It's different
We
than
Mm-hmm.
love
picking
a
up
ship.
and somewhere.
We
I
love
love
a
a ship.
romance on a ship. Not every reader loves a romance on a ship, but like Kelsey and I particularly do.
We were like, we're back on the
We're
boat.
back on the boat. I sent Kelsey the gif of the Jack from Lost when he's like, "We have to go back."
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
I wasn't quite sure initially how that was going to work out. Like he's a duke. I was like I guess he could do whatever he wants and they
Yeah.
could live in Mexico. But then her father entered the scene and I was like, "Oh, okay." Then it like came together like how
That was
that would
beautifully
all work
done.
out.
That was beautifully done because you have Anna Maria, who's married to a future prime minister. She's a Londoner, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Isabel, who's working for the Mexican president's first lady. And so she's in Mexico. And then it's like, okay, well, where will Gabriela land? So we go to Mexico and it's like, okay, obviously we've known since book one that she's destined to be with the Duke. So there's like no
Mm-hmm.
question. And it seems like, he has not taken his seat in Parliament. He hasn't voted his seat. He's
Mm.
and it's a 10-day voyage. I'm like, I would take two 10-day cruises a year. Like you could easy,
Right?
okay?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you could absolutely convince me to do that. So, it could go either way. We don't know where they're going to end up at the end of things. And I really loved that. And then I also really appreciated that it showed how like Gabriella's kind of like, yeah, I actually like can't be around dad for this amount of time. And Isabel's like, I get it, but like it's fine with us. Like, and it just like I'm one of three sisters and we each have a very different relationship to our
Yeah.
parents. And it's like that I think that you did a really nice job of being like the sisters can be consistent in their closeness while having a different relationship to the parents.
Hmm. I will say I'm writing like a Christmas scene, second epilogue, something for my newsletter with the sisters. And it's set obviously after like Christmas after Gabby and Sebastian got married. But it was fun because you saying, oh, you could take a 10-day trip or whatever. Like it's not hard because that's how Isabel and Sirius were able to get back to London because I needed them in London for it.
yeah.
I'm like, it's not that far. They can come visit.
Yeah.
10
And they
days.
did. Hmm.
I love that. And while we are deep in Gabrielle and His Grace, Emily's idea for our secret word is
Oh,
fantastic.
the secret word for people watching later who need their extra credit. Now, if you're here now, you don't have to DM us.
Yep.
We will just take attendance. And I have noted that some people had to leave early. We get it. But if you need to DM us the secret word is Dukeicide.
We
That
love
word,
it.
and however you think that word is spelled, will be very fun for us to look at
Yeah.
in our DMs. So you are
All
going
correct.
to DM that word to at Romancelandia Uni. If you're watching on YouTube and you leave it in the comments, I won't see it in time to give you.
Because we're not that tech savvy.
That's
That happened
hilarious.
last session, and I was like, oh.
I
Yeah.
like how when I wrote that part in the book, like I didn't plan that out. I was just like, what would he say? And that like kind of came out and I kind of stopped and stared and I'm like, that feels like a very Sebastian thing to say.
Very Sebastian.
So much fun. He's really a fun hero, and he's a very memorable hero. I think because he's so much like the heroine. They're so
Mhm.
twin in the mirror. Like they're
Yeah.
so alike in all the right ways.
He is a big dummy, as I'm sure you realized reading this book.
Well, I know we're wrapping up soon, and so I just have to ask as we, again, big historical romance readers among the group, and would love to know a few of your favorite historical romance authors, some of your iconic historical romance books, the books that you cut your teeth on that inspired you to write historical romance. We just love knowing what your inspiration was.
So it was a Sarah McLean book that convinced me to try writing historical romance. It was No Good Duke Goes Unpunished.
Nice.
I had read it. I've discussed this before, so I forgive anyone who's heard the story before, but it's part of my lore. So um,
Love
I had at the end of that book, there's that big reveal about Chase. And my mind was blown. And I
it.
had a colicky baby and a 2-year old. And so I was up to here with being a mom. And for the day, I want to say I devoured that book in a day. It was like the perfect escape. And my husband came home and he was like, "How was your day?" And I'm like, "Oh, the kids are great. Let me tell you about this book I read." And I told him and word vomited all about this book, which he knew nothing about. He didn't know about the fallen angel or anything about that world. And he patiently listened to me tell him about the book. And he was like, "I have not seen you this animated in a long time." And I'm like, "Yeah, because being a mom is hard." And he's like, "Have you ever thought of writing your own book?" And so literally that was it.
I'm such a
And
huge
that
fan of your husband after this
I
conversation.
know. He's the best. But that's literally kind of like what jump started me becoming a writer. But it was also like when I think about books that I love, writing styles that like I aspire to, I think of Julianne Long. I call her my like writing goddess because she's just so beautiful. Like she's such a beautiful writer. Like her prose is stunning. Her character work is impeccable. There I can't tell you the amount of times I like am reading one of her books and I have to put it down just to like sigh over
Yeah,
like a
just sit with that.
sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just so beautiful. I just adore her work. Um, Adriana Herrera, I'm a huge fan of her work. She's so bold and so unafraid to like go there, and she presents um Latine culture in such a brilliant, vibrant way, unapologetically. Like I just aspire to that. And then at kind of like not the opposite end of the spectrum, but I also really love Mary Blau.
Yeah,
Blau, did I say that right? I never know how to
I've
say her
never
last name.
known. I
Okay,
only read it.
Blau,
I've heard that it rhymes with Kellogg.
Oh, really?
Bellog,
I
Yeah.
would not.
Bellog,
I
Mary
know.
Bellog.
I would never
Okay.
say it that way just from reading it, but when I think of her, I think Mary Balog. Balog.
Balag. Okay. Well, I
I
really love her work because it's so gentle and like
Yes.
so just like her plots, some of them are kind of out there, like not like Lorraine Heath out there, but like sometimes they're kind of out there, but they're
Yeah.
so gentle and her characters are so beautifully written. I think of like her books as like warm hugs. Like I just really love how soft they can be and how much beauty is in that softness, that tenderness. I just really love it. And when I think of like my favorite books, I think of like slightly Is It Dangerous? The with Wulfric in the Bedouin series.
Yeah, the Bedouins. Yeah.
Like I have a lot of favorite books by Mary Bellog.
Sorry.
I know.
yeah, we won't correct it.
Like Only a Kiss. I adore that. I ugly cried through that book. Obviously Slightly Dangerous. She has others that I just really love. Um, that I think of when I think of like my favorite historicals. I think of some of her books. I also really love Monica McCarty, who has not written historical romance in a while, but
Oh my gosh.
she
I
So
can't believe
many
Jess is
students
not
are
on
reading
this
her
call.
books right now.
really,
She just
really,
read
okay.
12 of them.
She's
Look,
dominating this fall session
that's
for
amazing.
RU.
I love her books. They made me fall in love with Scotland.
Yeah.
Like they're so like sometimes so I've been rereading the Highland Guard series just because they're so fun and there's so much history packed into that and she makes it so sexy. I just really really love them. I got to visit Scotland for the first time this past summer. I went with Sophie Jordan, and we had so much fun together in Scotland, and I just fell in love with it. And I really think that my love for it started with Monica McCarty and her books. Like
Yeah.
I just adore them.
That's awesome.
Oh, we've got people racing through Highland Guards right now.
They're
So
so
it's so
fun.
funny
Yeah,
to hear because
I
it came
read
out of
12
nowhere.
books in like under a month, and I'm waking up and I'm like, whoa, I just read 12 books. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was in Scotland being like, oh my gosh, like The Rock in the series, there's a book called The Rock. I'm like, it's set here. And like I would like talk, like I
Okay, where
knew
were
so
you
many
visiting?
things.
What part of Scotland were you in?
So we were in Edinburgh, but
Okay.
we ventured out. So we were like in Glencoe and we went to Fort Williams and we were in Loch Ness, but we spent the majority of our time was in Edinburgh. But I'm actually celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary next
Oh,
year, and
wow.
I told my husband we're going to Scotland. So
Yes.
we are going next fall
Okay,
to
that's so
Scotland.
exciting.
So he
And
can fall in love like I did.
yes, and somebody better give us the Scotland golf book because
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
gonna write it. I'm gonna
right?
write
you need
it.
to
I
hit
will
up
probably
President Bailey and
self-publish
be
it.
like, golf anthology idea.
Yeah.
That's right. Great idea. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Send her an email.
Yeah.
hmm
Well,
hmm
thank you. We can't thank you enough. Just
I
you've
can't
been
think
so
of it.
generous in your time and letting us just squeal about your books.
Oh,
We've had so much fun reading your Luna Sister series and back, and know that a number of the folks that are participating in this session of Romancelandia University are reading your books right now. So we're just so excited to be able to invite you on and
oh.
talk more about your work. So thank you.
I was incredibly flattered that you invited me to
My
join you
gosh.
all.
We're
Thank
We're so
blown
you.
away
honored.
that you said yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies.
Well, thank you.
All
And
right.
thank you to everybody who joined us live. We know for all of our Eastern time folks like me, it's starting to get late. So we'll go ahead and wrap
hmm
it. Thank you again.
A
Thanks,
wonderful
everyone.
night. Thank you again, Liana. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.